I remember growing up, you'd hear people talk about conspiracy theories, and everybody's like, this guy's crazy. And now people bring up conspiracy theories, and then like 6 months later, you're like, oh, that might be actually a little true. Like, my favorite one that I just heard recently is that Donald Trump is Elvis. But someone in my family, and they were comparing like Donald Trump's eyes and nose, and it is a pretty wild rabbit hole to go down. The king of rock and roll is now Donald Trump, is the president of the United States.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Enzo from Sitting Down with Stand-Ups. Today we have a very special guest. He's a good friend of mine, very funny guy, Eric Rueseler. Today we're going to be talking about just the St. Louis scene and everything comedy. We're going to have a really good time. If you are new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and click the bell button so you get notified for every video that we put out there so you can be part of the fun. Now, let's get to the show.
You know, and when you start doing a podcast, there's a lot of people who are like, no, I don't want to come do it.
Yeah.
You're like, all right. So I had to do a lot of repeat guests, and I was like, I'm going to have to keep you. So when I first started, one of the very first ones I think I ever did was you and Ronaldo, and I had to go out and buy beer just to convince Ronaldo to come do it. And I was like, I will give you free alcohol if you come and sit and talk to me for a little bit. And he's like, all right, fine.
The transition that your podcast has made has been pretty incredible because you're right. In the beginning, it was just kind of like, let's just get drunk and talk in front of a mic.
Yeah.
And that got a little out of hand. And you're like, all right, well, I need to treat this a little more like a business. And then now you get some good guests in there. And we're having some good conversations. And I love the theme that you have with the podcast is just talking. This is called The Best. Mm-hmm. The Best?
With a question mark.
With a question mark.
Yeah.
You're not like egotistical. It's like The Best?
Oh, man.
Podcast?
I didn't think about that when I named it. Yeah. I thought like, I was so ignorant that I would thought that people would get online and be like, what's the best podcast? And so if I named it The Best with a question mark, that would pop up in search engines.
Very smart. It's like a Korean restaurant naming their restaurant Korean Near Me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like Korean Near Me.
That's kind of what I thought. I was like, all right, yeah.
But you know, to your point, I did search for your podcast a while ago, and I'm like, the best question mark podcast, and it was just like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, like working out, talking, and I'm like, that's not Eric.
No. Yeah, I'm so, oh man. I'm so lost. It was such a learning curve because, like, I went to school. So I got out of the military, went to school to learn how to do cameras and lights and audio mixing and all that stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. Now I know how to film and record a podcast. But I knew nothing about distributing the podcast.
Marketing.
You know, like, didn't know anything about marketing, didn't know anything about search engine optimization and hashtags and keywords and use this app and use that app and how to, you know, Instagram likes this. And I wish I would have gone for social media management because the cameras and the audio and the lights are important, but it's pretty simple to figure out once you get going.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is insanely complicated.
Yeah.
And you need like a whole degree just to learn how to do it.
It is, I always say it's an ecosystem. It's literally an ecosystem that you are trying to funnel into whatever you want people to see. You have to make sure you're grabbing them in every way, shape, or form, making sure that every net is cast in every direction so you get the most out of every piece of content that you put out. And it's a business. You have to treat it like it's a business. And it's kind of crazy because like all we want to do as comics is just tell jokes, talk, just, you know, riff, do whatever. But it's like, well, if you want people to see what you're doing, you gotta also have that mentality. It's like, no, I can't just like, you know, have fun and do this, that. It's like, it's gotta be a completely its own thing aside from the content. It's nuts. I was talking to Melanie about this And it's kind of crazy because comedy like comes in waves. Sometimes when things are hitting, it's like you're getting booked, you're having good jokes, you're coming up with new bits, and everything's working. You have this stint that just happens. And I guess it's with everything. And it feels like time's flying. And then you go like a month without getting booked, or like a month and a half, and it's just like going to open mics, and it's just like trying new jokes that aren't working, and it's like, what am I doing? But those moments humble you for when the time comes and you have a good show. It's like, okay, here we go. This is why we do this.
So comics always like to name, like, if they've got a string of shows going, they call it a tour, and they like to name their tour or whatever. The past like year and a half, I've been calling it I found out about this 36 hours ago tour, because that's where most of my gigs come from.
Yeah.
Is Jack texting me on a Wednesday
Are
night.
you free tomorrow?
Hey, are you available this weekend? And
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll be at the Funny Bone, and people are like, I didn't know you were going to be there. And I'm like, well, I didn't either. I'll be honest.
I know.
I found out about this probably about the same time you did.
It's nuts. Yeah, we're just like, is it this weekend? No. And it's crazy because people always ask, when's your next show?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this weekend.
Soon.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And then
I've
you're
got
like,
a couple coming up, but
yeah.
when I have buddies from the military that, after you get out, you all scatter to the wind. And I had someone the other day, they're like, when are you coming to Ohio? And I was like, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Let me know. Do you have a venue? Are they
Yeah.
looking for somebody?
I know.
And when you coming to Connecticut? Like, hopefully soon.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a big jump, especially
Yeah.
as a local comic, going from doing only local things to starting to actually hit the road, like somewhere in the Midwest, Ohio, Indianapolis or Oklahoma and things like that. And it's like, it's a big jump because now when you're local and you get paid for gigs, oh yeah, you make a couple bucks here and there and this, that, and the other. But like when you're starting out to tour or go on the road, you're like reaching out to these promoters. Hopefully they pick you to do probably a very mediocre night that they're just
Yeah.
kind of taking a risk on you. And then you're making just enough money to pay for your trip there. And if that, maybe it's like we're losing $100 to just like get the opportunity. But then now you're like, if you do well and you went to that club, you did well, the booker saw you, it's like, okay, well now I'll get booked a little bit more. Now I have another club that I can reach out to. And that's ultimately how you grow as a comedian, aside from social media aspect, is just like reaching out to local clubs, just like anything. It's just marketing yourself and be like, let me get an opportunity to do this. And then you do it, and then it's like, okay, maybe next time.
that is a great thing about St. Louis, is that since it's centrally located,
It's the
in
most
the
centered
country,
place.
yeah, you can literally, you can reach out to like Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Nashville, Louisville, Kentucky,
Arkansas.
Little Rock, Arkansas. Like, you draw a circle around Missouri, there's 8 states that
Yeah.
border it or whatever, and you're like, I could be at any of these clubs within X number of hours.
Yeah.
And so you just start sending out emails to that radius, and every year my radius has like grown and grown and grown just a little bit, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to
And then
keep it growing,
you go to Arkansas for a show, and then when you have it booked, then you're like, all right, what else is in Arkansas? Let me see if I can do a run. Let me see if I can do this club, and then there's a showcase that some guy's holding. Let me see if I can get on that show and then make the most out of your trip, because if not, you're going to be losing money, and then also maybe just not doing much besides that one show that you got. And it's crazy. It really is. It's a grind, but for some reason, I always say this: comedy is literally like substance abuse. It's like I don't know why we like it, but we love it. We want to keep doing it. It's not good for us. It really ruins our life a lot. We're up all night.
Yeah.
We're away from our family. We spend money, and it's just like, for what? Someone can listen to me tell a joke.
Yeah. It's so when I first started, like after my very first open mic, when people would say, "Oh, what do you do?" I'd say, "I'm a comedian." Because I was like, I feel like I have to believe it before anyone else will believe it. but also now I've kind of reached that point where it's like you meet someone who's a coal miner or a steel worker or whatever, and they're like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I'm a silly clown boy. Like I'm a silly little clown.
Yeah.
Like I tell jokes like
Yeah,
that." Yeah,
it's like-
and you're like, "Ah," but then you don't realize like. I don't know. I also appreciate that because it keeps me in check a little bit of like, oh yeah,
Don't bitch.
yeah,
Like, don't
it could
complain.
be so much worse.
It could be so much worse.
Because as comics, we love to complain about.
I'm not getting
"Oh, I'm
booked.
not getting booked. You know,
I'm
I
not
didn't
getting
make that much
stage
money.
time."
And blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Nobody's following me.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 you know, like that. But then you realize, like, yeah, I didn't mine cobalt today. I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't
like-
lose a finger.
yeah. I was out late last night doing mics, trying to test out new material to take to clubs and stuff like that, and it didn't go great.
Yeah.
But I also got to sleep until 9:30 today, so it's like, it's
Yeah.
all right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
nah.
And everyone's problem is their own problem because it's our own reality. So the problems that I deal with and the problems that somebody else in a completely different profession deal with, they are both valid. But you're right. You have to remember, it's like we are just trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's like we want just to make sure other people have a good time. That's what we want to do for a living, is have a good time and make sure other people have a good time. Now, the work that you have to do in between the shows, that might also, that might be a little grueling, like reaching out to promoters or writing and this and that and the other. But then, like, dude, the feeling of getting a bit and you're just like, you writing it down, you're just like, all right, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then you try it and I'm like, oh, it works. I'm like, that's another minute.
Yeah.
That's another 30 seconds.
And it's the most exciting. I remember there was. So I drove to Cincinnati one time, which from where I live is 6 hours away. I drove up. I had a 4-minute spot on a show. I went up and I tried one new bit. And I threw it in with the like regular, set. And I tried one new bit and it got a decent pop. And I drove home for 6 hours and I was kind of like,
That worked.
yeah.
Yeah.
I doing the trip back and forth, I ended up losing $70. You know what I mean? It was not beneficial at all. But I was like, I've got a new tag for this line, or I've got a new 30 seconds or
Yeah.
whatever. And I remember for 6 hours just being like, yeah,
That
yeah,
worked.
that was good. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I can't wait to, oh yeah, that's awesome.
Not many people know this unless you're a comic, but on a comic that actually like listens to their set, isn't there such a different feeling when you listen to your set from having a good set and then having a bad set? It's like when you get in the car, when you're done with your night, it's like, I'm going to listen to that set because I know that popped and I'm going to think about what else I can add to that little bit, this, that, and the other. And then sometimes you have a bad set, you're like, I got to listen to that set.
So I don't know if you do this, but sometimes before a big show, when I'm nervous, I will listen to a bad set and then I will listen to a good set
Whoa.
right next to each other.
Why do you do that?
Because it there's something about it that you can tell, like whether it was you were off or the crowd was off or whatever. And it's like I'm skeptical when people blame the crowd, because like I've seen some shows that were like really bad and the crowd was not laughing at anybody, but then one person went up and
they
got
found
big
it.
pops,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, they did it.
Yeah.
So it's not the crowd's fault. It might be us. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I listen to a bad set and then I listen to a good set. And especially when you have them on video and you can tell your body language, your facial expressions, you're just in the moment. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that's right. Okay. Be this guy.
Yeah.
Not this guy. And it kind of helps you like, and then it gives you that like refresher of like, oh yeah, I can do this. Like I have crushed before. I have had a great set before, and it puts you at ease a little bit.
It does. It puts you at ease until you ever have those moments, and I know it might be too inside baseball, but you go up and your first bit is your banger, or your first bit's the one
Yeah.
that's like 99% of the time I tell this joke, it's going to do well. And then it doesn't. And then it's like, oh,
You're like, oh.
we're up here for a long time. We're up here for a long time. Let's see how this is going to go out. This is...
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Oh, okay.
and then you do the next one, you're like, huh. All right. And then to your point, like, you could say that's a crowd. But then it's like, the crowd doesn't like your set. You might need to do something else. Like, you might need a riff.
Yeah.
You might need to break
Pivot.
them a little bit. You got to pivot.
Don't be scared to pivot. That's a thing that drives me absolutely
But it's
insane.
so scary.
It is scary.
It's so scary to
It
pivot.
is scary, but that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And like I was at Helium not too long ago, and I saw a comic who's a friend of ours, and he went up on stage, and he started off with material, and they were kind of like, meh. And he was like, you could see him thinking, and he's like, all right, I'm not really enjoying this. So he pivoted, and he tried to do like
A little bit of crowd work.
little bit of crowd work, nothing too like egregious or anything, a little bit, and he got a couple more reactions to that, and then he was like, okay, now let's pivot into some different material, and then when he did that, they enjoyed it.
You
And
weave
I
it
was
back
like-
in.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, that was good, you know. And he was kind of kicking himself because he's like, they didn't like the first bit, and the crowd work was kind of meh. I was like, yeah, but you got them, you figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a puzzle. Like, just because you started going one way and ended up on the other side, you still won.
Yeah,
you
you
know what I
got
mean? Yeah, who cares? Like, you figured it out. And I can't stand it when you see a comic go up on stage and they pick a lane and just drive into it as hard, and it's like you're losing everyone.
Yeah.
You gotta change something. You
Yeah.
gotta do something else.
Take a risk. I mean, it's not going to get any worse. Like, do something else.
Yeah.
It's so interesting you say that. I just put this 2 and 2 together. Like, when you do a comedy set and you have situations like that, I've done a lot of business, like sales in my life. When you do sales, you have a sales pipeline from beginning to end. You know that there are going to be points where you have these conversations where you bring up their interest, your interest, how we can find a mutual solution, and price. And especially in real estate, it's like you do this, like, what do they want? What do you want? What is it worth? And then we get to the final price. And there's a streamline of this. And the same with a comedy set. It's the same streamline. But sometimes in that streamline, there are objections, and then you have to kind of like go roundabout, start talking about, maybe give a story in sales, be like how you can be a little more relatable, how you can venture out of that streamline, but then you come back in and then you keep going. And the same with comedy. It's like, if your set's not doing well, the streamline, the storytelling would be maybe be a little personal. Talk to an audience member. Note, like, say something about a previous comic, not in a bad light, but like just something that you notice. And then once you get him on your side, you go back and then into that streamline, because you have to be able, if you're just sticking to the script, like, so many things could go awry, and it's just like, well, how can you always have a good set? You're not always going to have a good set, but like, how can you increase the possibility of you having good set? You have to be able to pivot right on the spot, which is a true talent. I mean, that's why Matt Rife is so big, because he is great at riffing.
Yeah.
Let's call him Matt Riff. Is that a thing? Like, he's
Just two dudes goofing,
just
man.
two dudes goofing. Oh man, that's so funny. All right, I got a question for you. I always like to. I'm starting to find a rhythm of this podcast. One of the questions that I really like, especially asking other comedians, if there was a comedy god, and you could ask that comedy god for one thing, what would it be?
Six-pack abs. No, I don't know. So this isn't my answer, but I have thought about it. Let me ask you. I thought about photoshopping my face. You know, on Instagram, there's like those thirst traps of like girls would just.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, no.
Yeah, no, I've never seen any of those. Yeah,
at all.
But I thought about taking some of those videos and putting my face on them just to promote.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
Stand-up clips or
Yeah.
like dates coming up, because people would click on it.
Now with AI, you can like talk with that video,
Yeah,
and it's
that's
just
the
like
thing.
you with humongous.
Like, what if I just did that? You know,
Yeah.
like, what if I just did my bits, but as a thirst trap girl? You know what I mean?
I love that.
And it's like, maybe that would get traction.
And she's like just happy, but your face is just like.
Yeah, it's just my face, beard, kind of chubby
Yeah.
cheeks, whatever, and then
Just a bombshell.
yeah,
Just like jumping around doing
just-
this.
Yeah, in a bikini.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
love that. I think that's very fun.
But you brought up Matt Rife, so and I think, I mean, I'm not saying anything negative about him at all, but he is an attractive guy, and that certainly has not hurt
beautiful.
his career.
No.
So if I could clean this up,
Yeah,
more.
just look better.
Yeah.
Wow. I would not think that. Like,
Well, I'm an extremely insecure human being.
but like,
which is
looking, like, not looking great is kind of like, people say that's kind of like a good thing in comedy, you know?
yeah, but also
You need some confidence.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I'm trying to get back a little bit is. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh man, I'm sorry.
thought you were gonna
I'm sorry,
cry.
sound guy. Yeah, what am I just? You know,
I just want to lose a couple
ever
pounds.
since my grandmother died. No, oh man, like a comedy genie.
Like a comedy genie, yeah.
I think I honestly, because being attractive, that just takes dedication, like
Yeah.
discipline. Like,
Yeah.
okay, just stop eating fast food at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
and you'd probably get there.
Yeah.
You know, I probably wish that I had like just a genius level understanding of this social media, marketing, how to market myself to clubs and just people to get fans, because that's the whole reason I started a podcast, was because I just wanted people to get to know me, kind of. And it's like, come see me. I'm much better on stage than I am at podcasting. But, you know, jokes take a long time to write and flesh out. And I think you're kind of like me, where like you obsess over the littlest things. Like, this pause needs to be a little bit longer, or this word needs to come first in the sentence, or like, you know, you have to like, it's building like a car, you know, it's like the tiniest little details have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it awesome. And so it takes a long time to build that and get it out there. So if I just constantly am putting out my stand-up clips, when people come to see me, they're going to be like, oh, I've heard this, I've heard this, I've heard this, you know? So that's why I started putting out podcast clips, because I was like, hey, this is a single-use joke. Here you go. I'll throw that out there, you know? But when you come see me, it's all fresh, it's all new, it's all clean. You know, you'll enjoy it. You know, I don't want it to be something that people are like, oh, well, I've heard this.
St. Louis, the St. Louis Funniest competition at the Westport Funny Bone has started. If you're a fan of comedy and you want to see these comedians compete, come out every Wednesday through the month of
February.
We're having a competition. The top 3 comedians will be moving on and seeing who is the champion of the St. Louis Funniest. So come out. I will put a link in the description below to where you can get some tickets. If you use the promo code FUNNIEST, you can get in for free. You can buy 1 ticket for free, or you can get 10 tickets for free. Come out, bring your friends, have a good time. We will. Yeah, no, it's the industry, the business side of this is so important. And if we could solidify a good sound core when it comes to, you know, being able to promote yourself, not only more people are going to know about you, but then it gives you a little more excitement to start working on stuff. And then you're like, man, I have somebody that came to my show last month and they want to come to my next show. I don't want to do the same jokes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to disappoint that one person that literally said, I want to come to your next show. You're really funny. And then it's like, I will rewrite my entire set just for that one person, because that one person's believed in what I'm trying to do.
Last weekend, or no, weekend before last, I was at Westport Funny Bone. I was featuring for Brent Terhune, very funny guy. It was a great show, great time. And this lady came up to me after the show and she was like, I saw you out at the St. Charles Funny Bone like 2 months ago. I love that joke about blah, 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 blah. And I instantly was like, I'm so sorry that you've heard it before. And she was like, no, I liked it. I wanted to hear it again. And you know John Morgan, the Raging Cajun? I got to feature with him one time, and there was a group of people that was there on the Thursday show, and then they came back to the Saturday late show, and I saw them coming in, and I pulled them to the side, and I was like, "Hey man, these people, they were here on Thursday. Do you think I should like, I'm gonna do a different set?" And he just looked at me and he goes, "I mean, do what you want, but let me tell you something. Last week, I went to go see Billy Joel in concert, and you know what he did?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "The same 7 songs he's been doing for 30 years."
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
was like, "Okay." And he was like, "They came back because they liked it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay."
And they want to show their friends. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I saw this.
Listen to this, listen to
listen to this bit.
That's have you ever had that where you didn't do a bit? Like you tried to change it up and someone came up to you and they're like,
didn't do the-
You didn't do the church thing.
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like, "Oh, well, I saw you and I know you'd heard it before, so I thought I'd try it out." And they're
Yeah.
like, "That's why we came back." And you're like,
I know.
now I feel like even it's like there's no winning.
Yeah. To that point, well, one, how crazy would it be to have John Morgan as a podcast guest?
Oh, I'd love to.
Dude, that would be insane.
I
That guy,
would absolutely.
if you don't know who John Morgan is, look him up.
The Raging Cajun.
The Raging Cajun. He is one of the funniest comedians. I mean, the guy is. He can pull it off. He pulls.
He just hits the stage with this energy. From the moment they say, "Guys, please welcome to the stage your headliner, John the Raging Cajun Morgan."
Yeah,
and the moment he just as soon as he grabs the mic, it is like,
Boom.
We're going.
Yeah, it's like
We're
hold on
going.
tight.
So the last time he was at Westport, they were doing a 2-man show. Jack was hosting. A very funny comic named Bree Munich. Shout out Bree. She got to do a guest spot, and then they brought up John, and she was up there, and she's new at comedy, but she's very funny, and she was doing jokes or whatever, and he got up there, and he's got this gravelly Cajun accent. He's like, "Man, this show about to hit a 180." Like that. It was so funny.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
just he's so boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom.
he
Yeah.
is so funny. Second, about like having return audience members or just having like any sign of appreciation from an audience. Like, I just ended up getting merch, so I got stickers, and that was super exciting. Okay, this was actually really sad. I went to Illinois. I was featuring for Michael Myers. And I said, "Hey, after the show, if you guys want, I'm going to be selling stickers." It's like, there's not anything, you just donations. Whatever you want, just donations. And this was at a bar.
Yeah.
It was like a bar show. And
Yeah.
then I go out and I find a table and I'm like so proud and I'm like putting on my stickers and I make sure they're like lined up. And then like 90% of like the audience leave the showroom into the bar where I'm at. And I'm just like looking around and I'm just like, oh God, this is sad. This is so sad. I'm just like putting the stickers in my pocket. But then like somebody came up to me afterwards, like, "Are you actually selling those stickers?" I was like, "Yeah." And I already put them in my pocket. And he's like, "Oh, here you go." And he gave me like $10.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God." And I gave him like 13 stickers. And I'm like, and so that's not like how business works. It's like, it's a donation. You give him one, maybe two. It's like, if you do this, you're not going to. But I was so happy that somebody like listened to me, appreciated what I've been working on, and wanted to support me in some way. And they ended up I ended up getting like $30, which is like, even in the grand scheme of things, of how much money somebody can make in a year, $30 is like a dinner, or two Chipotle dishes, and it's just like, but like the fact that I made it doing comedy, the fact that I sold a piece of art, the fact that somebody just wanted to support me, I don't know, it feels so nice.
The first time I ever sold merch, I was at an American Legion in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, just super far south of Missouri, almost in Arkansas, and I was supposed to do like 30 minutes, and I was gonna get like $50 or whatever, and I was still happy to have the show, but also I was like, I was like, well, whatever, I'll pitch the merch, which is just stickers, and I said, "Hey guys, I take them for donations. It all goes to gas money, so I can keep doing this." Put it down, moved on with the show, right? At the end of the night, I made like $150 because people were just like, I want a sticker, and they'd give me $20 per sticker.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, please take more. And they're like, no. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you driving down here to like that. And I was like, I remember like being in the car later and being like, this is like a possibility. Like I like doubled my paycheck.
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
Yeah, I was so excited. And
We
now-
are so needy for some sort of affection. It's
Oh,
so
yeah.
nuts. That's why we do comedy. It's like we just want affection, whether it's from a stranger, from our parents, or whatever it is. It's like if you just show us affection for something that we did that we're proud of, it's like we just feel. And I mean, I guess that's anybody, but for us, it's kind of like an extra level of it because we do stand up. Like we're literally every night seeking the approval of complete strangers at a bar.
I think it's just because there's so many years of doing this that you're like,
Somebody.
is anybody enjoying this?
Yeah.
Is this, am I wasting my life? Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Because you go up and you bomb over and over and over again, or you have a decent set, but you're not getting paid for it. And then, you're just grinding it out over and over and over again. And then when someone comes up to you and they're like, hey man, I really enjoyed that, or you were really funny. You're like,
dude.
you're like, oh, you don't know how badly I needed that right now. Like,
Oh man, I was talking to a comic that performed last night at the Westport Funny Bones Funniest competition. He was talking to Jack, and I was like, "Hey man, every time you do stand up, is it like always supposed to be fun, or is like sometimes you don't have fun doing it?" And it's like, no, not always, man. It's not. I mean, most of the time it beats.
it's supposed to be
It's
fun.
supposed
I
to
mean-
be fun, but sometimes it's like you're not gonna have.
Well, that's the crazy thing is that you're supposed to be, so as a comic, you're supposed to be this
The jester.
fun time guy. You're a clown, you're a jester, you're whatever. You're supposed to entertain the people that are there.
Yeah.
But there are going to be days where your dog dies, or you have to buy a new hot water heater, or you're freaking out over bills, and then you have to put that aside and then go, whatever, and like still be the fun guy. And that is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Is because life continues to happen to you. And you have to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to separate that, and I'm going to focus on these people, and I'm going to make you laugh. And that's my only job. And that's where I think being a professional comes in, because it's like you have to be able to put the world aside for a minute, and I'm going to focus on these 12, 50, 160, whatever's in front of you people, and make sure they have a good time.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about, you know?
Speaking of professionalism, you've been running your podcast for a while now. It's called The Best Podcast, and we're
Question mark.
with a question mark. If somebody wanted to listen to that podcast, what would you say? Like, what it is about?
So it's just it's a fun way to sit down with other comics, and it's kind of like a game. So anytime anybody ever says something's the best, it's just their opinion. There's no scientific way to prove one thing's the best over the other. You know what I mean? Like you could sit there and argue all day about, oh, well, who's the best basketball player of all time? Jordan, LeBron, Larry Bird, whatever. Everybody has their own opinion. You can look at stats, but really it just comes down to who you think. So there's no right or wrong answer. So I like to ask people these questions. Maybe we have a fun debate about it. Maybe we agree. It's usually a lot more fun if we don't. But I try to come up with unique and interesting questions, kind of like which endangered animal do you think would taste the best?
Do you have a list of animals, or are we am I supposed to know?
I mean, if you could think, so let's say I'm not up to date on which animals
who's endangered?
but I think there's a rhino that's not doing so hot right now.
Oh.
I think
It's probably Chewy.
river otters, I think they're up there. Tigers, I know they were dwindling quick for a while.
Okay. Not very fatty. None of these animals are very fatty.
No, I think otter would probably. It all depends on how you cook them.
Yeah, you guys.
I think that I heard. I don't want to sound insensitive or racist, but I've heard that the Chinese like rhino horn. They grind it up and they use it as almost a blue chew, if you will.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. I've heard that.
So maybe a rhino tea.
I just
rhino
like how
horn
you
tea.
said the Chinese. Is that
The Chineses?
the Chinese or Chinese people? I don't know what's worse, but yeah, I know they used rhino powder as a
Aphrodisiac. I've heard.
aphrodisiac. Well, okay, a lot of black comics have told me to.
Now who's insensitive?
Well, no, they told me maca.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's mostly in like the black community. It's like, have you tried maca? Like it's like you'll wake up ready to go,
Yeah.
like hard as a rhino's horn, if you will. And it's like I've never even heard of maca.
Maybe everybody took some maca, the rhino population would go up a little bit.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we need to replace maca with rhino horns.
Yeah.
Okay, so then yeah, I've done your podcast a couple of times. I think it's super fun. I think one of the best questions I remember is the best way the world will end. What was it?
Yeah. Best apocalypse situation.
Best apocalypse situation.
And I usually have like I'll have like a screen with a couple slides up, and they'll have like different scenarios, like killer robots, lizard people, super volcano eruption, asteroid, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one.
I don't want it post-apocalyptic. I want it. I mean,
You want it done.
I want it done. I mean,
Okay.
I don't feel like the world would be great after like I don't want to be the 1% that survives. You know how hard it'd be, bro. It's hard enough to live life now. Like to be like, oh, I need to go look for food. I'm done.
I see that. So like you want like asteroid. You want it to like fall on you.
Yeah.
You know, like
I
want to be out.
Like take me. Like if 99% of the world is going, like make me be one of them. Like I don't want to be. Imagine the pool that's left behind. Like
I will say that I don't. So like I would not want killer robots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I just feel like they don't sleep, they don't eat,
Yeah.
they don't get tired. Like
they'll control you.
yeah, they'd wipe us out pretty quick. So Terminator style situation seems horrible. Lizard people would be pretty scary, but I feel like
We'd have a fight though.
we would have it wouldn't be one-sided.
No.
Especially during winter.
Yeah.
When it gets cold out,
Yeah, dude,
they're gonna hibernate.
yeah,
Yeah,
fucking-
we could come up with a plan
Easy.
during January and take them out in their lair underground, wherever they are.
Yeah, North Pole obviously.
Yeah. We would all just move. Yeah, we'd move somewhere cold.
Which is crazy because why would lizard people be in the North Pole?
Oh, I don't think they. Well, I don't know. See, that's another best conspiracy theory.
Oh, best conspiracy
there's
theory. I
so- 'cause-
love conspiracy theories.
Oh,
They're-
it's so fun to ask that to some people because you see them like light up and they're like,
brother, I've
"Have
been
you
waiting.
heard about?" Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so funny to.
Oh man.
Which is crazy because it's like I remember growing up, you'd hear people talk about conspiracy theories, and everybody's like, "This guy's crazy." And now people bring up conspiracy theories, and then like 6 months later, you're like, "Oh, that might be actually a little true." Like,
Yeah.
and you never know like who to try.
Yeah.
Like my favorite one that I just heard recently is that Donald Trump is Elvis. Yeah.
That's so wild.
It was someone, I won't say who, but someone in my family was watching a TikTok video and they were comparing like Donald Trump's eyes and nose, and it is a pretty wild rabbit hole to go down. And I was like, yeah, okay, I mean, you have my attention.
Yeah, it's like
I listened the whole time, just like, wow.
the
Okay.
king.
Okay, the king of rock and roll
is now
Donald Trump, is the president of the United States. Okay.
Speaking of conspiracies, did you see the thing that just came out with Howie Mandel and Bill Burr?
Yeah.
That was nuts.
I just saw that last night,
They look
actually.
exactly alike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
Bill
mean,
did not look very happy about it.
No, I don't know if it was a bit or I don't know if it was like.
What's crazy to me is that Howie would kind of like spring that.
Yeah.
On
Well, he
Bill?
does that a lot in his podcast. Like
Yeah,
it's
but-
very like.
So you know he's like a super germophobic, very doesn't shake hands, doesn't like
Yeah.
very clean, very has to like if you watch on when he was the host of
Oh, dude,
what's the suitcase one, Deal or No Deal.
it's literally my favorite show.
It's that gives me anxiety because
Dude,
like
it's
I'm bad at numbers or whatever.
Pick the right one.
Pick the case. What's the best strategy for Deal or No Deal? That's a good question.
Oh, the best strategy is very sexist. It's very sexist. Who is the less likely person you would hook up with out of the case holders?
See, mine's very similar. I didn't think about hooking up, but I would eliminate the women I was attracted to the most first. Because then the longer you're staring at them, they're like, well, I don't want her to leave. She's so pretty. You know what I mean? So it's like, no. I'm getting rid of the hottest girls first.
I honestly think that's the best game show in the entire world because it is all random. There's no way you can trick or skew the outcome because whatever bag you pick or whatever case you pick is the one that you pick. And the ones that you pick on that are left, it's like, it's all random. The game is in the decision making. And Howie Mandel talks about this a lot. It's like, it is crazy because we're getting these contestants that make $40,000 a year, and you're getting offered $200,000 just to stop playing a game, and you're like, no deal, and it's like you leave with nothing, and it's like, why? You could literally start your life brand new with even $50,000. That's 1 year of income.
So you want to talk conspiracy theories? I have no evidence to support this whatsoever. It's just an opinion, right?
So it's true.
Yeah, so it's 100% true. So you should, every word. No, I believe that reality TV shows and like shows where you're competing for like $1 million, they're not for our entertainment. They're for billionaires' entertainment. They watch those and they're like, look at them. Look at what they're doing for $1 million. Look at that. It would be like you and I watching those bum fights, you know? And it's like, yeah, they're fighting for a chicken sandwich. Look at that. That's so insane. My gosh. Like Survivor, think about it. They put people on like a deserted island, starve them, make them live outside, deal with snakes and mosquitoes, and they have to like eat raw meat and like do obstacle courses or whatever. And there's people who make $100 million a year just like, look at that.
Guys.
That's so wild. Look at them go.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That could be. It's like the Squid Games kind of. Like they're like the VIPs.
Yeah, the Squid Games. Yeah. They're just like, oh, look.
Speaking of game show hosts, Melanie and I, my fiance, we applied for The Amazing Race. So we'll see.
So your relationship's over?
Yeah, pretty much. No, we applied for The Amazing Race to see if we can. Because, I mean, she runs a travel business, and I have, like, an entertainment background. So it's like, it could be a really good, like, TV persona. It's like, she literally has been to, like, 40 different countries. And I'm like, so it's like, I don't know. It could be a good
That would be so fun. I had to beg my parents not to sign up for The Amazing Race.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I was like, you will get divorced.
Oh,
you can't. I've traveled with them as a kid. I mean, just road trips to Holiday World, you know? And it's like,
I'm not getting in that taxi with that man.
My mom, her hand, she broke her hand one time. And so, like, when she does this, her fingers kind of curve a little bit. So she was like, go this way. And my dad would be like, I can't tell which way you're pointing. Your hands are curved. And it's like, that's just driving down 55.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now imagine you're in Bangkok. Like, you guys are not going to make it.
Yeah.
Like,
do they like The Amazing Race?
Oh, they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. I enjoy it. I haven't seen it in a long time.
It's fun.
I enjoy it.
I think it would be a really, really interesting experience. But who knows? Maybe I'll get booked on it. Maybe not. But if I do, that'd be really sick. Chance to win $1 million. Again, another reason. Look at these guys. Just fucking just running around for $1 million.
I think the craziest part about that show, and they don't ever show it, is that you have to ride in like coach, like on an airplane or whatever, and it's like a 17-hour flight, and then you get off a 17-hour flight,
you start running,
and you have to run to a Buddhist temple in Bangladesh. You know, you don't speak the language, and you're looking for a box, like you're looking for a mailbox this size, you know, to find, and then you open it up, and it's like, complete 7 hours of ballroom dancing, and you're like, I'm so tired. Like,
it's literally The Amazing Race. It's so amazing. I wanted to ask you one more thing. and we can start wrapping up. We kind of missed this boat, but if you could do one thing for the St. Louis comedy scene that would really improve it, what would it be?
Grow it, make it big. I don't understand.
What would that entail?
I don't know. I don't know how to.
Just more shows, I guess.
More shows, but also I look at some of these other cities that I've got to travel to, and they're great, and they're full of great comics and great clubs, and I'm not putting anybody down or anything like that, but St. Louis is a great place. If you're interested in starting comedy, this is a great place to do it. We have 3 top-tier clubs. We have 2 Funny Bones and a Helium. We have 100 mics a week, which and bar shows and showcases and venues all over the place. We've got people that love comedy here. They, and it's like this is a great place to start. You're centrally located. I don't understand why it's not a big hub. Like, it'll never be LA. It'll never be New York City. You know what I mean?
But it could be Chicago.
It could be Nashville.
It could be Nashville.
I've not anything wrong with Nashville. I love going down there. I'd love to go back soon.
But it's not like comedy's not the main thing.
They have 2 clubs.
Yeah.
They have 2 clubs, and one of them is mostly improv. Like, it's a mostly improv club. We have a club just dedicated to improv here, and then we have 3 other stand-up comedy clubs, and then we have, we even have a 4th one, if you consider KJ's on Broadway, north of I-70, and it's like, this is a great area. There's great comics here. There's great talent. It's a blue city in a red state, so you get a mix of everyone, and you can hit all these different demographics and try out material in all these different places and like really get sharp and test it. And I think people in the past, people would get really good at stand-up and then they move to these big cities because, that's where the agents and the managers and the network deals and stuff like that are. But now, because of things like podcasts like this and the internet, we could build that here, And I don't understand why people won't consider St. Louis. Like, yeah, the crime rate is a little high.
A little.
We do that to keep the property taxes down.
And
okay?
it's a good business.
And it's a good business.
It's a great business.
Yeah. Why not?
You want to find a $120,000 3-bedroom, 2-bath home? Come to St. Louis.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. It's really great.
Sure.
I think what we're doing here with podcasts, building shows, doing the competitions, has really been a lot of exposure. And I think if we just consistently do that, it will start doing it.
What you and Corey are starting to do here is, I think that's a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, you too. With your podcast too, you're building. You're showcasing local comics, and you're showing that comics around here are funny. And you just got to keep doing it. We just got to keep doing it, and it will grow to a point that it's like, oh, you need to stop by St. Louis before you go to LA. Like, you're gonna do some good clubs. Or it's like the shows are always sold out. There's a good audience. Like, people don't understand how important like a good comedy audience, like Austin. Austin's like a humongous hub, kind of like too big, but like the audience there, they're like comedy fans. So they're oversaturated with too many comics, like too many open micers.
Yes.
But like the comedy fans, they know comedy. Like they to a certain extent. If we could have just a little taste. I don't want all of Austin, but if we could just have a little taste here, I think it'd be really good.
Well, you bring up Austin, and Austin obviously has it's booming right now as far as comedy goes. But I've been down there. There's 2 clubs. There's 2 clubs and 4,000 open mic comedians, all vying for the same spots every week. And you go down there, and it's not uncommon to sign up for a mic and you get 1 minute on stage.
Yeah.
You get 1 minute and you're 75th on the list. A mic will start at 2 p.m. and not end till midnight because you're just...
And then it's a bucket pull.
You
have to wait.
Just stuck there waiting. Like, I went down last year and they brought out the list to sign up, and it's like it reminded me of when you like sprinkle fish food in a pond, and they all like they all come to the surface and fight over it. That's what it was like, and it was insane to me. But here, I don't know. I mean, honestly, how many open mic, like serious open mic comedians would you say are in St. Louis? 50? 60?
Yeah.
Like, it's a good pool, and there's people with great talent, and there's people who are starting out, and they will get great quickly because they're getting more opportunities. They're getting more stage time. They're getting those chances that you can get double the stage time in St. Louis that you could in Austin in like 6 months because there's more. You're not fighting.
Yeah.
You know?
I've told my fiance this, and I'm calling it on the record. I think St. Louis is going to be one of the hottest, I don't want to say the hottest, but it's going to be a phenomenal place for people to live in the next 10 years, maybe even 5 years. I think the value of the homes are going to go up, the crime rate's going to go down, and just overall the ecosystem here I think is going to be really good. So if we just keep doing this, or whatever we're doing in comedy, and everything else takes care of itself, it's just gonna get to a point that it's just like, if people don't move and they stick around and want this place to grow like I do, I think it could be a really, really cool spot.
Yeah.
I think it really could.
Because I mean, I live 2 hours south of St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get to here.
Yeah.
Like, my whole goal is to get my family here.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of comics that are like trying to leave.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, don't
Just
please, just like, hold
hang
on.
out.
Let's build something.
Yeah,
Let's make something.
I know.
And it's like, there's nothing wrong with going out and doing weekends, because that's the goal.
Yeah, but
you know,
like,
I mean,
make this a hub.
I told somebody the other day that there's 52 weeks a year. 47 of them, I want to be on the road. You know, I want to be home for my wife's birthday, my son's birthday, my daughter's birthday, my anniversary, and Christmas.
Other than that, fuck 'em.
Everything else, yeah. But like all the other week, I'm not saying I won't come home in between, but like I want to do this. That's the whole reason I got into comedy is I want to travel from, one weekend I'm in Minnesota, the next weekend I'm in Nebraska, the next weekend I'm in Louisiana, the next weekend I'm in Oregon. Like, I want to do this, and I feel like that's kind of what it takes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I appreciate you doing the
podcast
podcast with us.
This is fun.
This was super fun. What are your socials?
It's at ER Comedy on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. On Facebook, it's Eric Rueseler Comedy. My last name is Rueseler.
Oh, no, yeah. Thanks for coming. Thanks so much for listening, and come back next time.
Check it.